I remember noticing that there was kind of a convergence between the hip-hop culture and the white community in the way there hadn't been before. That was sort of the moment when white guys became black. And that's the only way I can say it, right? I just noticed this and I was like, there wasn't any, like there wasn't a white version of rap or hip-hop, you know what I mean? It was all one. And I remember thinking, that's kind of interesting. And I used to see, you know, the agency I worked at in Boston, I would see the art directors and all these guys, and, you know, they're all into the Wu-Tang Clan and all this sort of stuff. And I remember thinking, that's kind of interesting because typically, prior to this, in previous youth cultural movements, there had always been a sort of a sanitized version for the white community, right? If you look back for time, there'd always be an attempt to sanitize. And I remember thinking, well, this is kind of interesting to me, because it was just something I noticed and I registered, right? And so, and it was true, it was undeniably true. You looked around, it was there, it was everything, right? So it wasn't like I was the only person in the world to notice it, but I did notice it in my own way. So, then I came back to DDB, and I worked on and my goal coming back to DDB was that little bit of pop culture influence that I'd had on Bud Light, right? I was like, I wanted that multiplied by 10 this time, right? So going out right from the get-go, I was like, all my ideas were radically different to everybody else's by virtue of wanting to do that. Like, you know, I wasn't setting out to, well, can we get a commercial made? That'll be awesome. I was like, fuck that. I want the big hit, right? A really big hit. I didn't care what it was. And so I had a bunch of ideas that were all, you know, some of them couldn't be done for various reasons. And one of the ideas I had was, somebody showed me a film on a videotape before YouTube. And it was shot by a young African-American filmmaker, and it was basically him and his friends shouting those up to each other in the film. And it was done really well. It was very funny. It was very funny in a way that you couldn't put your finger on. It wasn't like, you know, it wasn't an out, like kind of like Dude in a way. It was kind of like the way people are kind of thing. It was very reality based, you know. And it was just him and his friends on a Sunday afternoon shouting those up to each other over the phone and all that. And I remember thinking, well, A, that's very fucking funny. To me it was anyway. And B, I remember thinking, well, wouldn't this be interesting for Budweiser? Because Budweiser is such a white brand. I mean, it was, at that point, it was really white. You know? And I was thinking, well, that would be funny if we just redid this and brought this thing that I thought was very funny to the TV screen. And so people would, or all over America would see this thing. And I showed it to my boss, and he liked it. We showed it to Anheuser-Busch, and they liked it. And so we then contacted the director who'd done the film and see if he was open to it. Of course, he was leery of it. You know, he was, you know, typically when things that are authentic to a culture, and this was authentic to him and his African-American friends from Philadelphia, when they get put through the marketing machine, they come out the other end and you wouldn't even recognize it, right? That's, you know, when this happens, right? So what I did, I said to him was, I promise you, Charles, I said, I promise you that this is going to be done your way. It's going to be authentic. You're going to love it. I'm not going to get in the way. It's going to be great. The only addition we made was we had the cast members now drinking Budweiser. And so we did that, and we shot these commercials. And the reason I liked it, the reason I liked this thing, wasn't so much that I liked it and I thought it was funny. It was that when I showed this videotape to other people, they thought it was funny. But beyond that, being funny is one thing. What I noticed was, whenever I showed it to somebody, and like a week later we'd meet or whatever, they'd be like, "What's up?" And I'd be like, "Oh, that's kind of funny. Yeah, that's kind of funny." And not knowing what was going on, but I knew that people who seeing this couldn't not say it, right? They were like, "We got you. You could. If you didn't say this, you were being difficult, because it was such a thing you wanted to say." So I knew that going into making these commercials. So therefore, when it was a hit, I wasn't so much surprised as I was relieved. I was like, yeah, I knew this would fucking happen, you know, because I knew it would happen. You know, I'd seen enough people of, you know, women, God, you know, well, not that many women, but everyone kind of liked it on some level. It was a very nice, basic thing. So we did that, and it just blew up. It became this, you probably remember it, it was just insanely popular, to the point where it was like, you know what, it's so popular that it became like, I was just thinking of this the other day, you know that song by James Blunt, You're Beautiful? You know the first time you heard You're Beautiful, you put on them, trust me, you don't lie to me now. When you first time you heard You're Beautiful, you're like, it's kind of a nice song. She's on the subway and it's awesome, it's great, I like that song. And the 150th time you're like, I'm gonna kill that guy. You know? So we went through that thing of like being like, going from cool to like, my uncle says it at the wedding now and it's really embarrassing. Which is the price you pay for being really popular. And I'm happy to go through that again. You know? As I'm sure James Blunt is in his mansion in Ibiza. I'm sure he's saying the same thing. But like it was one of those things and it became this huge cultural phenomenon and took over my life and it became this, you know, it was on all over the internet. It was one of the first viral, truly viral things. Like it went everywhere. Right? And I think the reason it did was because everyone was suddenly hooked up to the internet and there wasn't a lot of stuff to laugh at. Like it wasn't now where it's become an industry, you know, where everybody's trying to do a viral all the time, and, you know, but you can only have so many hits. You know? So I did that. Now, the interesting thing for me about the Was Up thing was a couple of things. Number one, it was a huge success and it was great fun for me and I won every award I could win and it was, you know, the advertising dream come true, you know, it really was. And it went on forever, it seemed like, it went on for like 2 years. And we had a lot of fun doing it. And, but the interesting part of it was, for me, was like, it was something that, it was like something I could control, because I did it. So I would like go, you know what we'll do next? I'll tell you what we'll do next. We'll do this, you know, and we'll do that, and we'll be fun. And so I think I was good at anticipating, A, how annoyed people could get with this, and how we really had to, you know, I could see that coming. You know, when everyone was saying Was Up, it was like I remember, one point we did I was at the train station. I was taking my train home, you know, and I went to the bar in the train station, and the bartender came up to me and he was all excited. And he didn't know who I was or what I did or anything. And he goes to me, he goes, "Wasabi," and I was like, and that commercial had just been released, and I was like, oh, he's taking it the wrong way entirely. I didn't intend people to say wasabi. I thought they would laugh at it and think it was a joke on What's Up. And instead he was going, "Wasabi." I'm like, that's pretty funny. Oh shit. Right at that moment, on the TV in the bar, some guy from the University of Michigan was speaking or something, some basketball player. And he goes into that was the funny bit at the end of the news. And right at that moment he goes, "What's up?" And I was like, oh God, this is just awful. This has to stop, you know? This is just, you know. So I was very acutely aware of how annoying it could be. So I was always trying to like stay ahead of that, you know, and make fun of it. But, you know, once these things take off, there's nothing you can do to control them, you know. That's just the way it goes. You can only try. But, so that was a lot of fun. And it was also very educational in terms of how new media worked, you know. Because basically what happened with the campaign was, we ended up with a campaign that other people were doing the ads for it through these parodies people were putting on the internet, right? And then they would air for free on the internet, right? So in other words, Budweiser had a campaign that was self-sustaining. We didn't have to do anything, which is a very strange position to be in for an advertiser. But they were very smart about it, and they just let it go. And it went crazy. And so, but it was very interesting for me and very educational to see how this actually worked, you know? Like to see how you can affect things and how you can't affect things and how you can do what you can do. So I was very much into that, right? And so, and we went on, and I'll show you some stuff that we did, and you've probably seen it all before. Whatever, you're going to see it again, so shut up. And so I was very into that because as much as anything, honestly, I was like the generation of people who got into advertising who loved advertising. I don't want to be a screenwriter or a director or any of that stuff. I just liked advertising. So, and I was very interested in how culture, because basically what advertising is the meeting of culture and the media, right? That's what it is, right? So I'm way into that. Always have been way into pop culture and the media and how it works. And for a long time, there was no media news, you know? It was just, there's TV and there's magazines, you know? I know you can't even imagine this, but I was just thinking about that yesterday. Our internet went down, and we were like, what do we do now? And I was like, do you have any magazines? No. We could play some PS3, you know? But that was